What's going on, men? In this video, I'm going to be taking you through a previous client of mine that had type 2 diabetes that was taking medication every day for it. He had a brutal shoulder injury and he could only train at home. And we managed to get rid of all of them and lose like 10, 12 kilos in the process. Oh yeah, that's really cool. That's really interesting. Who the hell am I? My name's Paul Green. I'm a former Special Forces Support Group operator, physical training instructor in the Army, trained thousands of elite soldiers in the Army. Now I've left the Army and now I train grapplers. The reason I train grapplers is because I believe Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to be the best thing you can ever do in your life, and I want more people doing it and more people continuing to do it for the rest of their lives. When he came to me, I said to him, mate, look, I need to know your exact weight. I need you to send me pictures, front, side and rear. I need to know how often you can train and where you can train. So once I've got all of that data from him, and I say data, pictures is data, videos is data, and obviously numbers is data. So once I've got that, I need to then create his meal plan initially. And then what I do is I present him his meal plan back to him as a draft, and I just say, mate, any initial dramas with this? So what I do is I'll take you through it right now. I put that data, right, into a calorie calculator as such, right? And you've probably heard of calorie calculators before, but these give a prediction on how much he should be eating based off his current predicted muscle mass, his current output, you know, with regards to his 9 till 5 during work, and how much he's training, how active is he, and his predicted muscle mass. So I'm looking at all of that data that he's given me, putting it into a system, and it's giving me a number. I'm tweaking that number based on what I know about grappling, what I know about martial arts, and what I know about him as a person and how busy he actually is during the day, because he had quite a sedentary job. So the calorie calculator starts off with body weight in kilograms and then body fat percentage. As you can see, this is the kind of predicted muscle mass piece. So it's my job is to start building this furnace, you know, fueling, starting to get that flame going, and then pouring, you know, fuel on that and just creating an absolute furnace inside of him. Build as much muscle as we possibly can with the diet limitations, with the training limitations that he has. So what we have is the calculator goes in and we work out his activity, and then it gives me a number, maintenance calories. Obviously, with him having a weight loss mission, I then need to reduce his maintenance calories down a little bit to start him off in a nice place. So he's in a little bit less calories than his maintenance prediction. Remember, this is all just predictions. So what I love to do on my program, and the grapplers that I work with really appreciate this, is that I am a man, I'm a grappler, I like food. I know for a fact that you like food. So I keep the calories as high as possible. And you're probably thinking, well, if he wants to lose weight and he's got type 2 diabetes, you're keeping the food as high as possible. Yeah, absolutely. But what I do is set him an output non-negotiables for the week. He's got to train, and he's got cardio, and he's got steps, right? And then we run the plan for a certain period of time. I basically put him on a ketogenic diet meal plan for a certain period of time in order to get rid of the damage that choosing the wrong types of carbohydrates, heavily processed foods, really low quality foods for decades had started to have an impact on his life. I'm going to talk through the meal plan now. So his meal one was butter, 4 large eggs and 30 grams of cheddar cheese. That meal was 478 calories, 32 grams of protein, 36 grams of fat. And he was eating this, he was like, what the hell, this is absolutely great. His next meal, chicken breast, so I went with a low fat protein option. Vegetables, 100 grams, cherry tomatoes. Cherry tomatoes are borderline, by the way. You'd think, because they're a little bit sweet, but it was quite a small portion. Cucumber, olive oil, feta cheese. That's another 470 calorie meal. That was 53 grams of protein and 24 grams of fat. he had a snack, a mid-afternoon snack of a tin of tuna, 50 grams of olives and 50 grams of feta cheese. That's a 328 calorie snack. So you can start to see just how many calories I was giving him. Pre-gym, so because he was on high fat, his main energy source was fats. It wasn't sugar, because if he had carbohydrates or sugar as his fuel source, he had to counteract that with, medication. Get rid of the medication. We're going to use triglycerides or fat as energy. It's going to be our primary energy source for a certain period of time. Then we're going to introduce whole food carbohydrates, oats and rice, at a later date. So his pre-gym was a high fatty meal, right? Yes, there's pros and cons of it. However, you've got to remember that his priority was getting rid of this type 2 diabetes. So pre-gym meal was Greek yogurt, 150 grams, frozen berries, 100 grams, and 15 grams of chia seeds. 270 calories pre-gym, give him a little bit of a fat boost and protein boost before the gym. He was never hungry on this meal plan, by the way. After the gym, he had a scoop of whey protein, almond milk, cacao powder, and almond butter. So he was having 17 grams of fat, 30 grams of protein after the gym as well. He got home. Think about the amount of food I'm giving him. He's losing loads of weight. It's ridiculous. And this was all based off his numbers, the data that came in, his photos, how much activity he was doing his week, how much he was grappling, and how much he could lift. Meal 4, salmon, 200 grams of salmon, asparagus, olive oil, cream cheese, and that was him, done. That last meal, 505 calories, 45 grams of protein, 32 grams of fat. So we changed his body over into primary fat burning machine, which ticked the fat burning box anyway, because that was his goal, but it also ticked the type 2 diabetes box. He never had to reach for medication because he was never increasing his blood sugar. And like I said, he was only training in his garage with dumbbells. I put him on a 3-day split, upper body 1, lower body 1, and upper body 2, right? So he had 2 variations of upper body with slight adjustments on his on the exercises in which I give him, just for a little bit of variation. But I give him 2 upper body sessions in the week because I wanted to prioritize getting into really tackling this shoulder injury. Remember, when people are injured, they are told off the system to rest and avoid. When people are injured, rest, avoid the injury altogether. No. What we do on our program is we prioritize the injured area. We prioritize the strengthening of it. So if anything, the injured area gets trained more than a non-injured area because it's the priority. The whole purpose of training is to get an area stronger. If we can get an injured area stronger, the injury goes away. I know it might sound really simple and it's really hard to actually absorb what I'm saying, because if you're injured, you're thinking, I'm injured, this guy's wrong because it hurts when I move. Yes, it might hurt. That's why the ongoing support of having a coach like me, or just being really cautious with your own training, but not avoiding it. Just being really fucking cautious. Anyway, so his program, upper body 1, flat dumbbell chest press, 2 sets, incline chest press, cancel that. This is, for some reason, yeah, that's it. Okay. Flat dumbbell chest press, incline chest press dumbbells, pullovers, chest assisted dumbbell row, chest assisted dumbbell wide row, banded high elbow rotation. So we're doing the rotator cuff, which was the injured muscle in the shoulder, the torn rotator cuff muscle. Dumbbell elbow to knee rotations, which is another high elbow rotation. Seated shoulder press, dumbbell lateral raise, and a standing bicep curl. All of them were 2 sets each. So there's a lot of exercises there. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? 10 exercises, but 2 sets on every exercise. So he's doing 20 sets. He's covering chest, back, and shoulders. So a good session, a good session, right? His lower body one was heels elevated goblet squat because he had mobility limitations in his hip flexors and his ankles, and I wanted to get full knee flexion to strengthen his knees. Just because he had a shoulder injury doesn't mean we don't strengthen the knees. Again, this is another problem with the system is if you go to a physiotherapist or a physical therapist with an injury, they will focus on that injury only, and they'll send you on your way when it's a little bit better. That's fucking great. However, they don't care about your knees, they don't care about your elbows or your lower back. And we try and do everything. We try and literally tick most of the key areas. In grappling, the most injured joints are the knees and the shoulders. So when on the lower body sessions, in my coaching hat on, I'm thinking priority for me as a coach to benefit him the most, quality of life, is strengthen his knees, right? So everything I usually do on the lower body side of life is to prioritize the strengthening of the knees. So he's got a heels elevated goblet squat, all the way down, all the way up, dumbbell RDL, Bulgarian split squat, single leg RDL, and you kind of get the idea. Additional output, I told him he needs to do 8,000 steps per day, and he needs to do 20 minutes of cardio per day. However, he can stack that up however he sees fit. So if he didn't do the steps one day, he just has to do double the next day. I don't really care about the individual politics. All I care about the individual day, I just care about the weekly totals, which I review every 7 days. So when he checks in on like a Wednesday, I'm looking at his data and I'm like, okay, priority number 1, diabetes. So I'm looking at his meal plan. Has he stuck to the meal plan? Cool, he's stuck to the meal plan. Happy days. Priority number 2, weight. Has he lost weight? Because he weighs himself every morning. I'm looking at the weight. So I see the trend every 7 days. I get 7 data points in the 7 days. And then number 3 is the shoulder. Has the shoulder symptoms improved? So there's 3 things. And every week, all 3 of them things aren't going to improve. But I review this and I'm going back to him with questions. How are you getting on? Do you know what I mean? So we can fill the gaps with that communication line, which we have pretty much every day. But really important, the weekly check-ins. I look at the photos as well to see if there's any noticeable drop-offs. And one thing I will say about Chris, and you know, if you are a bigger guy yourself, and it's one of the key things, is when you lose weight, right? The first play, like let's say you're a bigger guy, you know, you're talking 30% body fat, 35% body fat, or even close to 40% body fat. When you train loads and, you know, you do 4 weeks, 8 weeks, you know, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 12 months. You come on my program for 12 months, right? The first 6 months of that, you'll lose loads of weight, right? The scale will go down. But the thing is, the scale will go down a lot. But, and this is a real life lesson for Chris, most of the weight that you lose when you are at these high body fat percentages, most of the weight lost is visceral fat, which is huge for health implications because you're losing the fat that's around the organs because there was that much of it. But what that leaves you wondering is when you look in the mirror and you're seeing the excess flab on your body and you're thinking, I've lost 10 kilos, I've lost 20 kilos, why is this here? It's the inside stuff that you lose first. So I hope you appreciate that, because so many people give up because they look in the mirror, see that they've lost 20 kilos and they look kind of the same. They still got the rolls, they've still got this, that and the other, but you've lost the real unhealthy stuff. And this stuff on the outside, you lose second, you lose it last. So I just thought I'd get that in there. I didn't even plan about talking about that. Anyway, when to make changes is arguably the most important thing. And this is what elite coaches do really well. And I am a fucking elite coach, I will have you know. Because I can look at the data and create an amazing plan. But I don't care what you say or what a coach says to you or what, you know, your mum says or your dad says or your brother says who's telling you how to train, your best friend. When you aren't getting the results you want, you need to know what to do next in order to get them results. Because if you do, you take emotion completely out of the equation, right? Because training, it hurts, it's a commitment, it requires discipline. The more emotion that we can take out of the equation, the better, right? So when to make changes. So for me, as his coach, I make changes to his output when he doesn't lose weight. Notice how I said output then. 9 out of 10 people on a weight loss mission, if they don't lose weight, they reduce their food. That is a mistake, because if you don't lose weight again, you reduce food again, then you're left with less potential for output. Keep the food as high as possible. You keep the output potential as high as possible, right? So you add more stuff. For example, more steps, more cardio, but you don't add much. You don't add much. You don't need much, because it compounds to like large numbers over time. So when to make changes. Go to this next slide now, which relates to the changes I made. Hopefully you appreciate this, by the way. Let me know if you do in the comments, and leave a like, subscribe to the channel. Right, the data. Do you know what I mean? I'm not, when he says, oh, I feel like I didn't lose weight over the past month, I don't care about his feelings that much. I do, of course I do, because he's a human and I'm a human, and I understand and appreciate that we need that human connection in that relationship. However, I don't make many changes based off emotions, because I just fall back on the data as a foundation, and I'm like, right, okay, cool. Didn't really sound very good, did it? I'm not that bad, you know. I'm proper. I'm not as ruthless as you think. All right, look. So week 1, he was 120 kilos. Week 2, he dropped down 2 kilos. That usually happens in the first week. You just go, boom, big drop off. Week 3, he was 118 kilos. Because it was still his first few weeks, I was willing to let that one slide. Week 4, it dropped off, because I was willing to let it slide because the photos, I could see the flattening of his stomach. Week 4, he went down to 117 kilos. Week 5, he remained at 117 kilos. The photos looked kind of the same. I was like, okay, I'm going to make a change now. What I did is I increased his steps from 8,000 to 10,000, and then I ran it again. So in the first 5 weeks, first 6 weeks, I'm going to go on the next slide here, I didn't change his food. Next week, 114 kilos. Next week, 113 kilos. And then 113, week 10. Again, right? Week 10 was the first time I made a change to his calories. The reason I didn't really adjust his cardio is because I knew he was grappling. So I knew we were ticking a cardio box. You know, in the week, I knew he was grappling 2 times a week, and the sessions was like 4 hours. So I knew that was getting satisfied. One of the real struggles was the walking, because he barely done any steps during the day because he was behind the desk. Do you know what I mean? So steps, then I reduced the food. And then he lost. We went from 113 the second time to 112, then to 112 maintained. And then after the 3 months, he went to get his bloods done, and then they said, look, all of your bloods are in a really good place. You know, your blood sugar's down, your cholesterol's down, and all of these markers that they use to check is like, you don't need to take medication. At that point, anyway, I'm just going to make sure I'm not waffling. Yeah. At that point, I said to him, look, you are now, you know, thumbs up off the doctors, the specialists. You thumbs up to me to starting reducing some whole food carbohydrates, for example, oats and rice. And in my, you know, high performance, you know, rationale, them carbohydrates should be placed before and after his weight sessions. But they have to be really good quality. They have to be foods that don't go like this, bang, blood sugar up, down. No, it's just like a nice, so do you know what I mean? The complex carbohydrates, oats, rice, brown rice, not bread, not refined processed carbohydrates, because he doesn't want to fuck himself up again and have to go through this process. When he introduces the whole food carbohydrates, the high in fiber carbohydrates, then you can maybe add some more in, but everything's nice and slow. Like 1 week, add in a pre-gym carbohydrate meal, then the next gym add the post-gym carbohydrate meal. But this is how you get fully rid of type 2 diabetes. Men, that's it from me. Hopefully you appreciate that breakdown. Hopefully you've got some learning points there, some nuggets to take into your own life. If you want me to do all this for you, the links are in the description.